The MVP of 49ers training camp, it is unquestionably Deommodore Lenoir. It's usually a fourth-year player or a third year. He's a third-year player, right? It's usually a guy entering a contract season, a guy who's eligible for an extension or about to be a free agent. Usually a guy who's about 24, 25 years old. That's the guy who goes the hardest and plays the best in training camp when it doesn't really matter, but there's something to prove, and you know the coaches are watching you. Last year it was Ayuk. This year it's Lenoir. He's so good. I'm going to explain what makes Lenoir so good if you don't know, if you haven't seen him recently. First of all, some stats. 5 interceptions on Brock Purdy in 17 practices. Also, 2 dropped interceptions in a PBU. So he's all over Purdy. And what's cool about Lenoir, he's a little bit smaller. So 5'10", he's a good matchup against slot receivers. You could put him in the middle, in the nickel, or you can line him up outside. He has the speed to run downfield. Now, against bigger receivers, it's a tough matchup for him, just like smaller receivers are a tough matchup for Charvarius Ward, because sometimes really good, bigger receivers can make difficult contested catches over Lenoir. He's not perfect. But to beat Lenoir, you really have to make a difficult contested catch because he's right there in your hip pocket. You never see him get, fooled or shook or juked mid-route. He's right there. Sometimes he's just 3, 4, 5 inches shorter than the receiver who makes a leaping, tough catch. So that's the best case scenario if you target Deommodore Lenoir. Maybe you get a difficult contested catch. Worst case scenario is he intercepts the ball. And that seems to be the more, if you keep targeting him, you're going to get picked off. He has a really good ability to turn his head around, find the ball, and make a play on it. Sometimes the receiver will just beat him to the catch point. But he better make a great freaking play because Lenoir's going to catch that ball. And he's not going to be the guy who's like trailing a receiver in coverage and not turning his head and just putting up a hand or not even putting up a hand. Like, no. He's really good at turning his head around, finding the ball. That's not easy for a lot of cornerbacks. It's going to be interesting this year because he still doesn't have that reputation as like a shutdown corner because he's not technically a shutdown corner. You can get him sometimes, but the more you target him, you're really playing with fire. And so I wonder, like, early on in the season, are teams going to respect him or are they going to have to learn the hard way? And by week 4, is he going to be pretty much not getting targeted? Because, I don't know. I mean, Charvarius Ward's a hell of a player, but he's not having a camp like this. So, Charvarius Ward's a Pro Bowler. I'm sure he's going to have respect. Lenoir's going to earn respect. And whoever that number 3 corner is going to get a ton of action. Now, let's talk about Lenoir real quick. He went on Richard Sherman's podcast and was talking like, he told Steve Wilkes before the Super Bowl, hey, man, I want to play in the slot in this game because the Chiefs don't really have a dominant outside receiver. Most of their production is between the hashes to their slot guys, and I'm up for the challenge. And apparently Wilkes said, no, played him outside, only put him in the slot for 2 snaps, which is strange because he was playing the slot against the Lions and against the Packers and most of the season. And, Sherman kind of made it seem like that's a big reason the Niners lost the Super Bowl and that Lenoir should have gone to Kyle Shanahan and lobbied or gone over Wilkes' head. First of all, how do we know Shanahan didn't make that decision? You really think Wilkes is making decisions or was making decisions in the Super Bowl independent of Kyle? I doubt it. I'm guessing Kyle wanted that. Second, it was the right call. Because if you have Lenoir in the slot, that meant that Ambry Thomas would have been on the outside in the nickel defense, and that's not an option in the Super Bowl. Not an option in the Super Bowl. So what they did was put Lenoir outside and put Logan Ryan in the slot. Not a great option, but a better option than Ambry Thomas in the field of play. Always a better option. I'm going with Wilkes on that one. And then freaking Rashee Rice had 39 receiving yards in the whole game. So it's hard to say that the Niners lost because they had the wrong matchup in the slot. They didn't get beat in the slot. And frankly, they only gave up 19 points in regulation. Their defense did a pretty good job. And Wilkes is still being scapegoated by players on this team. Like, I've heard that you have three eyes. Three eyes. One look into the future, one look into the present, one look into the past. I feel like this Niners team has two or three of their eyes fixated on the past. They're still talking about the Super Bowl, man. Let it go. Focus on the future. You got a regular season opener in like 3 weeks, man. Why are you going on podcasts talking about the Super Bowl? It's August 16th. Stop trying to figure out the one little thing that could have went the other way. And that's what's so upsetting about the Super Bowl loss. It's like they still don't understand why they lost, and they keep going to like, well, if this one little thing had gone differently, we would have won the game. If Greenlaw hadn't gotten hurt, if Lenoir had played in the slide, if Kyle Shanahan knew the rules, all those little things. And probably some of it's true. Maybe if Kyle did know the rules, they would have won the Super Bowl. Maybe if Lenoir was in the slot, he would have had an interception. They would have won the Super Bowl. Who knows? But it doesn't matter anymore because they lost and it's over and they can't do anything about it. And all they can do is try to win it this year. And they're only going to win it this year if they're actually focused on this year, the present and the future. Focusing on the past is just sad and deflating, depressing. It's not like good nostalgia. That's 1995 when they won. Ed McCaffrey on the team. Christian McCaffrey, that's sad. I didn't see Christian McCaffrey today, by the way. But I'm sure he's doing good. And I say I'm sure based on nothing.